my first attempt at two things. One is to make a video all by myself using the remote control, and the other is making a banjo clock. Now the banjo clock I'm making is a Willard style banjo clock. First I made the back, and the dimensions on this are, this is exactly 8.5 inches in diameter, and this rectangular base here is let's see, it's 8.25 this way and 10.5 this way. The overall length here is exactly 29 inches. The waist, as you can see, tapers here. At the top part of the waist here, it's 3 3/8 of an inch, and at the widest place right here at the top of the box is 4 5/8. The next thing I made was the box that it sits on here like this. Now the dimensions of the box are exactly 1/4 of an inch less than the dimensions of this rectangle down here. And the reason is, when this is mounted on here like this, it's supposed to have 1/8 of an inch all the way around here, both edges, bottom, top, 1/8 of an inch of this back that will stick out. Now this little box is 2 3/4 inches deep. The corners are each mitered, and then to add a little strength I have put the little square blocks in there. Now the major remaining piece is the head, and I have that set up here in the lathe. I've just been working on that, so I'll take it down and you can see what it looks like. The head is 2 1/4 inches deep, exactly 2 1/4 inches, and in diameter it's 8 inches. The top of our back over there, which was a circle, is 8 1/4 inches, so again it leaves just 1/8 of an inch all the way around of the back that sticks out. Now this is going to be cut out for the works. Actually this will be just sort of a ring, but before I get done with it, it's going to have to be cut sort of, not a circle out of here, but there will have to be an ellipse out. It goes up about to there, and then on the sides it will be a little thicker. Down here it's thin, here it's thicker. That is, you have to have room enough to mount the works, which are rectangular and a long way up and down. And this is left wider here because the bezel face, the bezel is going to be fastened over here, and that's a fairly good sized hinge. Okay, well that's as far as I've reached now. This is the 9th of July 1996. I don't know how much longer it's going to take me to finish the clock. At the moment, although I have the works, and I have put them together, assembled them, bought them from Armando Cimento through the mart of the Clock Collectors publication, and they didn't come all assembled. There are lots of pieces you have to put together and finish. And at the moment, while I have it all assembled, I don't have it running. Well, I guess I'll have to stop now and take care of my bloody finger, which I injured a couple of days ago when I was doing a little work on the radio alarm saw. So now we'll click this off. Well, we're back at it again. There are a few things that I should have remarked about before, but I neglected to do so, so I'll talk about them now. One is the kind of wood I'm using. Up to now, about everything I've done with wood has been with cherry, most of it with cherry, a little with walnut, and then I've done a little with oak, but never with mahogany. And the reason I'm using mahogany is that the original Willard banjo clocks were usually built out of mahogany. I didn't know where I'd find mahogany. Fortunately, my good friend Dan Rattray had a supply of it, and he's furnished all the mahogany free. Gave it to me, and it is beautiful, beautiful, well cured, and just wonderful wood. And it's very, very nice to work with. The dimensions I didn't mention. The thickness of the wood. I have thickness planed it down to 7/16 of an inch. Now that's probably a little wider than is necessary. In fact, anything over 1/4 of an inch would be fine. So up to this point I have the three basic parts done. Have the little box at the bottom, and the back of the clock, and the top. See, I finished turning out the top, turned this out, and since the works set in here, I had to notch this little bit up here for the top of the works to fit in there. Now fortunately I could do that with a bandsaw, so I cut right in here and then could saw out this part up here. And the reason I can cut here is the waist of the clock now is going to come down. Well, you can see here I sort of marked it. It's going to come down. I'll put it on here and maybe it'll show up a little better. Sort of like this. So this will be cut out completely, way through to the back, and the waist boards here, the side boards, are going to come down here, and then they go right on through to the bottom. And inside there is where the pendulum and the weight will go. Now this bottom part, when it goes on down here, like this, it has to be cut here too. Just like this is going to be cut through, this has to be cut through for those boards to come right on through to the bottom. Well, I guess now I'm ready to do some of that cutting, and we'll make another report later on. I thought it might be helpful to look at a finished product. Now this clock is a Willard banjo that was made by Foster Campus. It is a little more complete than I expect mine to be. For one thing, there's this bracket on the bottom that has been added, and then these two side arms that dress it up. This is called a presentation model of the banjo. But you can see here, the works up here, these two side boards, there and there, they're the sides of the clock, come on down way to the bottom. And that's why we have to cut out this box here all the way to the back. And similarly up here, you see the head has been cut way to the back also to allow these boards to come right straight on through. Down here, I don't know if it'll show up there, this is cut back here and back here, and there's a plate that goes on there. I don't know if the plate's around here. Yes, here it is. This goes on like this. There's little screws that hold that. And the weight comes down behind this, and in front of it, the pendulum swings. You can just see, there's the pulley to which the weight is attached. Other than the pieces that I have shown you before, and these two side pieces, which I haven't yet cut to the right size, there's this door that has to be made, just a pair of small hinges there. And then also this front here has a little curve in the top, so it will take the shape of the bezel. Also, I'll have to cut in these fasteners. They're a bit different. You notice up there where it's cut in. Similarly, this one is fastened on the inside. This type of fastener seems to be unique to the Banjo. There's a little pediment that I'll put on top here, and I don't know what I'll do for this bezel, what kind of an ornament I'll put on. Probably get an eagle. One thing I want to emphasize that I think I failed to mention up to now, and that is, by all means, get your works first before you start the clock. Start making the clock, because the works have to match the case. The pendulum has to fit in here just right. And the depth of the case is determined by the particular works also. I suppose I'll think of other things as we go along that I should point out. If so, I'll do them later. So now we'll cut it up. This is just to show you that I did get my works together, and actually I did get them to run. This is the weight which I cast with the good help of John Ricketts in the chemistry department. Cast it out of lead. And I have not put on the last wheels up here in the hands, but I've been test running it. Now, it's best to fit this into the case, as I've remarked before things are finished. There are 4 holes in the back here that are tapped, and there are little bolts that come through the back, the head's countersunk, and into the case. And it's easiest to do this when things are very accessible. Also, I have done a lot of the sanding, in fact I hope most of the sanding, before I assemble the various parts. So I'll cut it off here, and we'll have a little lesson later on. Well, I guess this will be the last session for a while. Tomorrow we're leaving for the Olympic Peninsula for our family reunion. So whatever doesn't get done today on the clock isn't going to get done. So let me just talk about a few things that I've done since the last session. The top now is all completed. I haven't fastened it on yet, but there's the way it looks. You see, here's where the waist is going to come through here. I have the hinge mounted, and also this special latch that holds the door shut. And then I have prepared a little thing to go on the top of here. I haven't mounted it yet either. So that's the top all finished and ready to be put on. The bottom also, the box is finished. It has a similar type of lock there, the kind that's always used on banjos. The door is, the hinges are on, and I put little splines in the corners here to give a little added strength. Now the works are all mounted. See, there are these 4 holes through the back, and the head's countersunk, and they hold the works. The boards now that I have fixed to go on here, I don't know if I can display them very well and hold everything in place, but you can see how this has been cut out to accommodate these things that I'm going to put on here now. So they sit roughly like this. These are cut out at the bottom, and this one goes like this, and they go up here something like this. You can get the idea. Now the pendulum is in front here, and the weight goes down the back. Single weight goes down the back. I thought I would show you too. The top here, by the way, the length of these isn't too critical as long as you get high enough get up into the top. They don't have to go up to the works. But I had to thin these down a little up here at the top in order for the weight to go through. My weight just was a little bit too wide. So by shaving them down a little, I think the weight will work. And then I'll show how I made the weight too. That, as I said, was cast out of lead. Here's the way it looks when the casting starts. Better get some of this out of the way before I mash it. These clamps are pretty heavy, but the weight will just be poured in here. It's just wood. But I'll take them apart to show how they're how I fixed it. Hope I can get it back together again, because I plan to pour another weight. I don't know why. Okay, so the thing I'm taking apart really to show is, you see the little part here at the bottom to give that weight, the curved part. So that fits in there like this. And then these boards on each side. And these are tapered just a little bit here to fit the taper of the clock. So when you pull them the weight way up to the top, the weight isn't as wide here as it is down here, and it'll fit better. So that's the status of things. I think now I'm about ready to assemble things, start gluing. But I think it's very important to get all of these things essentially finished before they're put together. So much easier to work on, like the top or that box at the bottom. Much easier to work on while they're in separate pieces. This is the face that is to go on the clock. And I have the glass also. So that's the status of things on this 20th day of July in 1986. That's it. Well, I just couldn't quit today, knowing that I was so near the end. So I put together all the pieces I had. And the clock is running. You notice that there's only one piece I'm short, and that's that part right in front, immediately below the dial that goes down to the little box below the top of that box. And then I'll have to get some glass, both for that top part and for the bottom part. Normally that's glass that's painted from the inside and fancy, but I don't know what I'll do. Anyway, I'm just about done with it, and in less than 12 hours we will be on our first flight winging towards the Olympic Peninsula. Bye-bye. Finally, I have the clock all finished, even finish on it. But there are a few things that I can point out now that I couldn't earlier. This little bugger here is the last thing I made. That's the cover for the waist, and it was tricky. Of course, it isn't a rectangle, so none of these angles is a 45-degree angle. So that was a bit tricky cutting that out. And then too, to fasten this down, you don't want it glued on, otherwise you can't get at the center of the clock to get at the weight or do anything there. So I hope you can see I had to put in two little pieces, one above and one below, sink it in about 1/8 of an inch, similarly here about 1/8 of an inch. So this is where the fastening is done. You can see here on the clock itself, this sits in here like this, and see up here, the bezel comes right in here, sits above there, and down here, it's up just a bit high, this door closes across to cover this. So these 4 holes here for their countersunk for the screws, they're all hidden. The top by the bezel and the bottom by this the lower door. You can see here where I notched in for the hinge, and this is the big notch that you have to make for the door closer. Then also I have completed this little pediment for the thing that goes on top here. You got it fixed so it fits the curve of the top, the 8 1/4 inch diameter, and that'll sit up there. And I'll have to get an eagle or whatever to go on there. So now I will put it all together and show it in its completed form. So I will stop. Well, I finally finished my project here, and I have it all apart so we can take a look at some features that I couldn't comment on before. I have put the finish on, and I'm using Deft. I put on 3 coats. Now, I think it looks pretty nice. This is the last piece I made. This little bugger was really a challenge. In the first place, it isn't a rectangle, so none of these 4 angles is 45 degrees. And I didn't want to glue this right to the waist of the clock, right here, because that would then close off all this, and if I had any problem with the weight or had to get in here, I couldn't. So this sits right in here, sort of like this. And see, I've added these 2 little pieces here and down here and put holes in them, countersunk the head so we can screw this piece on. Look at this little piece here. It's sunk in about 1/8 of an inch in back, and the same way here I add this little piece, it's sunk in about 1/8 of an inch, and then the holes put in. On the top, you notice I have put in a hanger, countersunk it. This is the way the insides look. I had to put this in for the special kind of hook that goes on a banjo clock. Hinge countersunk there. And then last I made this little pediment base here for the top. It sits on there like that. It's rounded off to about a 8 1/4 inch diameter, so it fits on there nicely. I have to get an eagle or some kind of a design to put on the top for a gazelle for a finial. Okay, well, I think that pretty much completes the project. Now I'll assemble the clock and put the works in it and show you what it looks like then. So that's it. Now I'm going to try to show a little bit of the close-up before I put it all together. And now the last 2 pieces. Well, there's the finished product.